Zach Ewing back with you at the Californian studios. This is BVarsity Live. We're chatting with Roger Blake, the man who's pulled literally in 10 different directions by 10 different sections in the state. It's such a fascinating discussion, a lot of layers to these problems and these discussions, and maybe not one solution. I don't know.
There isn't. If there was one solution,
you would have found it, I hope.
Well, people smarter than I would have found it, and like being a good coach, I would have seen it and said, "Ooh, I'll modify it and make this way." But yeah, there isn't one solution. If there was, it'd be easy.
Here's another question, and you touched on this briefly with transfers and with parents moving kids into a specific school district to play for a public school. Not talking about a private school, but it seems as if the CIF and its sections have backed off from trying to police that quite as much. Is that true? Is that legal repercussions? Switching from the year sit out to 30-day sit out and those sort of things.
Well, what happens? Multiple questions there. I'll try to get them all quickly for you. The world's changed. I mean, when I grew up, you played at your neighborhood school. The only time you transferred is if your parents got transferred and moved to a new city, you were the new kid in class. That's not the world we live in today. So kids and families are always moving. They're looking for what they think. And families are always, and I would do as a parent, what's best for my family. So that part of the world has changed. Athletics were sometimes slow to keep up with that. What makes the headlines is when it's the 6'11" center or the great outside hitter or the softball pitcher that they move. But so 15,000 students in California that play sports change schools every year. 15,000. Sounds like a lot. There's over 800,000 students playing high school sports. So it's less than 0.2%. Now, but when it's that superstar, it makes a big difference. What we were finding was with some of our rules, they were so restrictive about people moving that what we call like the minnow, the little fish, just the normal everyday student that went to high school A as a freshman and mom and dad and your family just go, boy, this isn't working out. It just doesn't fit in. And they want to put them in a different environment and not a superstar. We were limiting them from playing. So that was, and they weren't making an impact on the high school sports scene. It was just a normal kid. And that's the majority of that 15,000 students that move. So that was why we changed to the sit-out period. It's really not a 30-day, 40-day period. It's about 34% of the season. So it's the first half of the season. It just kind of varies a little bit. We looked at that because we were saying the people who are lying, that are breaking the rules, that are using fake address, they're still doing that. But we're hurting the normal everyday kid and their family that are just trying to do the best thing for their students. So that was why we changed that. And what we really looked at the numbers, and now we're in our finishing our fourth year. We thought, oh, with that new rule, boy, we're going to see it go through the roof. There's going to be, some of the newspapers were saying, I don't know if it was you, it might have been Zach. Let's blame it on Zach. It's going to be free market. It's going to be, transfers everywhere. It hasn't been. It hasn't been. We still are around 15,000 students a year transferring. So high school sports, we have to keep up with the changes in society, and we're so traditional, and sometimes we're slow to do that.
What's the economic model looking like now? I mean, there's a lot of, you guys, are funded privately for the most part. I mean, a lot of completely, and so, how important is that, and what is the future of that? We got a great deal with Time Warner, but Time Warner's in the process of being bought by Comcast. The Southern Section has a great relationship with Fox Sports. There has been, I know there's success with some of the monetization that's going on, with some of the TV stuff, but how does it look long term for the CIF? Well,
that's a great question. Absolutely a great question. We're a nonprofit. I mean, we're just like the high schools. Mm-hmm. And if you can make a little money, then what do you do with that money? You got to put it back to help the kids.
Right.
And how are you going to help the kids? So one of the things that's really changed, again, in society, there was never a high school game on television, and we would beg the TV stations, do the basketball game champion, do this and that. Now it's becoming, with the internet, I mean, it's huge, which is great for high school sports. But what our high schools have to understand is that's a valuable asset. Mm-hmm. It's a valuable asset, and we've been giving it away for free. Oh, you'll come in and video it? Great.
Right.
You're giving it away for free, and it's an asset. You shouldn't give it away for free. That's why the NCAA has a $13 billion a year contract with CBS. And so those type of things. So that's a learning curve for high school sports. One of the issues that high school sports has to, we're in our infancy as a business. It used to be all education, and but it's changing to a business. So we
should
have
it
to
be
keep.
Should it be a business? That's one question I think that we face here because we've dipped our toe into areas that we haven't done before, including considering buying broadcast rights, and we have talked here. Well, why should we let an out of town company come in and own the rights to these games? Why shouldn't we spend the money on those rights and own those things ourselves? So those are areas that we've dipped our toe into as well.
No, again, should it be a business? Regardless, as much as I'm an educator, I was a lifetime educator, still consider myself one, but I still run a business now because I have to be able to balance the books so that these 1,554 high schools in California aren't having to pay more money. In fact, I got to figure out how so they could pay less because they only pay about $400,000 a year into the state to my office to help put on high school sports. I'd like that to be zero. I'd rather that money at the school, spend it on kids at your school. And if I can get Time Warner, Comcast, or in some of our corporate sponsors to pay for that, then that's better for our schools. So that it is a business model. It is, and it's really hard as an educator when we say that. But when you think about what's gone on in education the last 5-6 years here in the state of California because of the terrible economy we had, the schools had to figure out how to do the same thing. So my model is just a little bit different. What I hopefully have is an asset of these kids being able to play sports and provide great opportunities at venues like we have this weekend and when we're at Haas Pavilion and for basketball. And so it's a business. It's the sad part of it.
I realize you're a basketball coach, but we see you at all. We've had the privilege of going to a lot of state championships over the last few years. Do you have one that stands out in your mind?
You missed the boat.
I missed the boat. I'm sorry. I want to hear this.
Well, and being a basketball guy, I love going to the basketball games because my teams never got to the state games ever. We didn't get to the section championships. So I love being there because then I act like I'm the coach and I do this and that. But my two favorite events. This is one this weekend, wrestling and cross country. And I think it's because it's different. It's not a team sport. There's camaraderie between the athletes. There's joy in the arena. And there's true passion of the spectators for the great performance.
I'll tell you what, I love it here in Bakersfield, and I've been to it several times now, and it's fantastic, and we love covering it. I do kind of miss the weirdness of at UOP when they used to have it there where people would go running into the arena and falling down to try to save seats because it was so packed.
You would like that because there was 5,000 people when 10,000 people wanted to get in. I hated it because I'd have to be one of those people out there saying, sorry, we're sold out.
Everybody trying to look through the big glass window on the outside, and you can't look in.
And at Rabobank, the hardest part here at Rabobank now for Saturday night is, the only seats that are still available are at the very top of the arena, so buy your tickets early because it does sell out quick.
Roger, before we go to our last break, with you guys going to the Haas Pavilion this year at UC Berkeley rather than being at Sleep Train Arena in Sacramento for the last, over a decade now, having that facility that's not so cavernous because Sleep Train Arena is such a big NBA arena, how much different is that going to be for you? Do you think that the gameplay is going to be a little different this weekend?
I don't think the play will be any different, but I think the noise level may be different. And we haven't been in the Bay Area since the 80s. So I think it'll be exciting to see if we draw the Bay Area crowd. They were always super supportive. It used to be the Tournament of Champions before it became the state basketball championship. So we're
and you guys were there,
what,
last month or 2 months ago for the MLK showcase there?
Staff was over there. They've been there a few more times. It'll be a fun time. It'll just be fun. The history of walking into Haas Pavilion.
I love that place.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, the Sleep Train and the Kings, they've been super supportive. The only reason we're not there this year is they had other bookings that will sell out the arena where we wouldn't. So
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But before we let you go, Roger, one question, and I have friends in other states who don't understand this, and I think there are people in California who don't understand this. What is your relationship with the sections? Can they tell you what to do? Can you tell them what to do? How does that work?
Okay, now I'm going to take a lot of heat for this. You ready? Think of this. The CIF is just like the United States. There's the United States, we got 50 states. Can Washington, D.C. tell the states what to do?
Absolutely not.
It's a battle all the time. That's that's always
the Civil War was over that in part. Yeah,
states' rights versus the federal rights. Well, in our case, I am like the federal and the state. So it's always a battle of, can the state tell us what to do? No. And in our makeup, the 10 sections, they work individually. They have their own boards. The commissioners, they're not responsible to me. They work for their own boards, and their own boards are like here in the central section.
The schools control the section.
It's the schools, exactly. Now that's the big picture. Here's the great part of it. Our 10-section commissioners, they get along really well. They're going to disagree. We meet 5-6 times a year. They'll argue, they'll fight, they'll disagree, but they're in it together. They understand it together. So even though the vote, like on the football championships, it was very close, very close. Some of the sections voted yes, some voted no, like the Southern. But they still get along, and it passed. All 10 of them now will join together to make it work. So. We're fortunate. We don't have the dysfunction that I see in Washington, D.C., or I even see sometimes in my own state capital.
When will you drag the governor to a state championship event?
They're always invited.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the right thing to do. But I'll tell you, in what's going on for our governor, in the big picture of what's important for what he has to govern, take time to be at wrestling this weekend or basketball in 2 weeks. I'd rather have him with the Republicans and Democrats trying to twist arms to get him.
If Kevin McCarthy's in town, he'll probably drop by.
Well, I'll tell you, he was at our football championships when Bakersfield was there,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, I got to give credits because I deal with so many politicians in Sacramento, and sometimes they really are about public service, and then sometimes you can see their egos. He was not one that was about his ego. He was on the sidelines, and when we're doing the awards, you want to come out, and he's like, nope, this is about the kids. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, well, that's. I guess if the CIF is the United States, you're the president, so we appreciate.
Oh
you
gosh,
joining
no,
us.
thank you, but I'll just be happy to be.
Ron and Al over
director.
there are saying, "No, please, God, no." We really do appreciate you joining us. This is Roger Blake, Executive Director of the CIF. We're going to take our last break. We do need to talk some section basketball championships this weekend, some state wrestling, of course, as well. Trevor and I will be back on BVarsity Live right after this.